Handstanding is something I always dreamt of being able to do as a kid. For some reason, it seemed cool to me, like it would feel like freedom, and in some ways, it does. What's up? Nachshon here. Today I'm going to teach you how to handstand, or how to start your handstand journey to be more precise, and achieve that dream as well if you have it. Now, there are many ways of learning how to handstand, and most methods I saw online were about just going intuitively into it by kicking up into the handstand and just trying to hold as much as you can. The problem with these methods is that they lack something very important: the foundations of handstands. Handstanding isn't just about balancing upside down. It's about doing it efficiently with good form and a lot of control. The method I'll teach you today will cover the foundations of handstanding so that your progress in this journey will be as safe and as clear as possible. We're going to break the handstand journey into 3 parts. 1, learning the form and building durability. 2, learning how to disengage from the wall. And 3, learning how to balance without any support, aka free holds. Today we'll focus on the first part of the 3, learning the form and building durability. This part is usually the hardest and most important one to understand and develop. I want to share this knowledge with you because I want to build a positive, supportive and intellectual community around the movement world, and one of the core elements of movement training is learning how to be upside down and learn to balance yourself on a pretty high level. If you'd like to join this community, you're welcome to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, let's get started. We'll first go over what good form looks like by going through every important joint and how we should place it, and then we'll practice it on a wall. Before we go into each joint though, it's important to warm yourself up, especially your wrist. You should also work on bulletproofing and strengthening your wrist. If you want, I have a video about it. A link should pop up somewhere up here, so check it out if you want to. So the first joint is the wrist or hand. We want our index fingers to be parallel and the rest of the fingers to be spread out to the sides as much as we can. We also want the distance between our hands to be shoulders width. Many people fall short on that detail since most of us aren't aware of how wide our shoulders really are, and we tend to overestimate their size like other organs in our bodies. The second joint is the elbow. With the elbows, it's pretty simple. We want them to be locked at all times. The thing with handstands is that there are so many ways to control our balance. We can balance solely by using our shoulders or elbows, hips, or legs, but we want to isolate our control to only using our wrist for balance, so everything else should be locked and as static as possible. That's because when you have so many parameters to play with as a beginner, you want to make it simple and easy to digest and understand. Even though locking the elbows is a pretty straightforward thing to do, it's very easy to bend them, especially to the sides. The way we deal with it is by externally rotating our shoulders. What a great segue. I said that we externally rotate our shoulders to be able to lock our elbows, but I kinda lied. There are 2 reasons. One is really because we want to lock our elbows. Rotating them to point backwards helps us avoid bending them. And 2, because it helps us open up the shoulders more and lets us elevate them higher. This means closed shoulders, by the way, and this means open. So the shoulders should be as open as we can, externally rotated and elevated. The next joint is our neck. This one is pretty simple. We want to look at our thumbs. We don't want to overbend our neck forward or backwards, just keep it in the middle where you feel comfortable. The next joint is the pelvic or waist. In this joint, we want to do the PPT, which is short for posterior pelvic tilt. Many people will tell you to just activate your hamstrings, glutes and abs to get it, but a better way to learn it is by lying down on the ground and thinking about touching the ground with your lower back. And since we eventually want to do it in a handstand, we'll practice it by reaching backwards with our hands, locking our elbows and opening the shoulders, just like we would do in a normal handstand. Hold the position for 3 seconds and then release it. Do that for 10 repetitions for 5 sets. If this feels easy, start to get your legs farther away from your butt until you can comfortably do it with straight legs. That's where we want to get to before we move on to the next steps in handstanding. Another way of learning how to PPT is by lying facing down on the ground like this and thinking about creating a space between the ground and our belly by rotating our pelvic. The reason we do the PPT is because it helps us avoid back pain and because it helps us with joint stacking, meaning placing our joints above each other. It helps us with efficiency. The next joint is the knee. For this joint, it's pretty simple. Just focus on locking it as much as you can. The last joint we'll pay attention to is the ankle. Here, we want to make sure we point our feet. Again, for joint stacking. Okay, so now that we know how to place this joint and we can control the PPT, we want to practice everything together in a handstand. The way we do that is by practicing handstands using a wall. We do that because as a beginner, trying out a freehold handstand is too much to handle, too many moving parts. So we remove the balance part and work just on form and endurance. The way we'll do that is by facing the wall with our chest. This type of handstand work is called chest to wall. We'll start by climbing up the wall with our legs and walking our hands towards the wall and stop somewhere that feels comfortable. Even though we can get closer to the wall, we want to stop in this position for two reasons. To gradually introduce an upside down position so we can get used to it and not be afraid of it, and because the closer we'll get to the wall, the harder it will be to maintain our form. So we start in this angle and get into the form we've been working on so far. Make yourself a mental checklist of all of the joints. Start with your hands, parallel index fingers and shoulders width between them. Elbows locked, shoulders open, externally rotated and elevated, eyes looking at our hands, a strong PPT, locked knees, and last but not least are the feet. But we actually don't want to point them in this specific angle because it will be pretty uncomfortable. We'll point them when we get closer to the wall. All of these details are a lot to process at the beginning and will take up all of your brain's computing power, so you'll want to repeatedly go over every joint and make sure it's adjusted properly. It won't be easy at the beginning, but with time it will become second nature to you. Try to hold 20 seconds per set for 5 sets at the beginning. The progressions from this point onwards are to get closer to the wall and hold longer. I can't really tell you which angle you should do when or anything like that, but you'll naturally want to get closer to the wall the longer you hold, so it's yours to decide. Your goal is to get to 1 minute holds per set for 5 sets total, being as close to the wall as possible. This process will usually take between a few weeks for the gods among us and a few months for the rest of us peasants. For the elastically challenged of us, it might take longer. It took me around 2 years of chest to walling every day to get to this goal, for example, but my case is pretty extreme. If you're part of this exclusive club, welcome to the struggle. I introduce you to our weekly gatherings if you want to. That's it. This is everything you need to know to start your handstands journey, learning the right form and developing endurance. There are 2 more steps, which are wall disengages and free holds. I might cover these parts in a future video. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to. Before we wrap things up, I just want to say that it's completely okay if this doesn't come easy to you or if you don't figure it all out immediately. A big part of the learning process is in gaining experience, so be patient and focus on doing the best you can. Try to accept the fact that this is a long journey, so allow yourself to fuck up every now and then. It's part of the process. If you want to learn more about movement training and want to help me build our positive and supportive community around the movement world, you're welcome to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, have a good day and peace.